Some more refrigerant stuff here. Technician A says eye protection should be worn when working with refrigerants. Now, do we typically wear eye protection when we're working with refrigerant? Brennan? What happens if you do your final exam without eye protection? That's a crash and burn offense. All right. Technician B says to avoid skin contact with refrigerants and their oil. The refrigerants, what's the refrigerant going to do to your skin?
We didn't burn it.
Well, it can. It can actually blister it and make a... Hey, Sean, come on in, bro. All right. Now then. Technician B says to avoid skin contact with refrigerants and their oil. So that guy's right. And the guy that's talking about eye protection, he's right too.
See?
Duh. That's going to be, well, that one there's going to be a Charlie. That is going to be a Charlie. Let's see. Two technicians are discussing how to remove. Now these two technician A and B questions are ASE style stuff, you know. And the other style question is what? What else do we got that's ASE style? We talked about that before. All of the above. I mean, they'll say all of these are true except. Yeah, don't you love those?
No.
You know, why is it that people don't like technician A and B questions?
Some of them are hard to understand because they're poorly written.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but it's like more than one question. It's hard to guess your way through a technician A and B question. You have got a lot of chances to get that wrong.
By multiple choice, you got to.
Now, if you just guess at it and circle something at random, you know, you're typically going. I have never, anytime I've ever seen anybody just blows through my tests, they don't. They crash. They absolutely
That's how I
go.
did the finals last semester.
They go down in flames when we do that.
I felt like
I know all these.
they probably got like a 0.
Any of them.
I think last semester I only made only one or two final written exams and made good grades. The rest of them made like B's.
Yeah, bad news. All right,
You know,
technician.
he's actually doing all right.
Huh?
He's actually doing all right.
Who is that?
JT.
Yeah.
But he still, he don't know how to do it. It'll take 3 days to figure it out.
Yeah. And he's always talked a good game, and he has the desire to do well. You know what I mean? He wants to do a good job, and he's reasonably intelligent. But,
Not really.
He said one time that his mama's got about 12 or 13 kids or something. She's got a bunch of younger. And one day she's up on the house working with
that really happened. His
working
mama sat there and told me
working
that.
on a roof, and he popped off at her. He's about 13. She threw a brick, hit him in the head, knocked him down.
Literally, a brick. Told me the story.
Well, he was one of her youngest kids, and she'd raised enough boys where she knew. I mean, that sounds pretty abusive, but he didn't backtalk her no more. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's yes ma'am, no ma'am.
Yeah, nasty stuff. His daddy died, a long time ago, and so she had to pretty much raise him kids by herself. All right, here we go. Two technicians are discussing how to remove refrigerant from a system. Technician A says you can vent it to the atmosphere as long as it has moisture in it.
Yeah.
Technician B says all refrigerant must be captured. Now, something I'm going to require of you guys, and it's going to go a long way toward getting you a good grade on your air conditioning and refrigeration final.
Oh, Lord.
Before the end of the semester, before the end of, whenever, you need to get your credit card out and get ESCO certified. And it ain't costing very much money. It ain't a lot of money. It's pretty cheap, yeah.
I don't have a credit card. I don't own a credit card.
Yeah.
I want a debit card.
I think the way we set up, we can actually have you pay up here in the front, and we can do it that way.
Okay.
And then we can proxy it through a computer here.
I don't believe in
I'd
credit
be
cards.
dead if I had a credit card.
If I
Yeah.
had a credit
I wanna
card,
get one of
I'd
those
be
refrigerant.
trouble.
I mean, not even that. I mean, like $40, $50, $70, $80,000. You see me drive a nice car.
Everybody in here pretty comfortable that you know how to use the refrigerator machine to, suck it in, charge it. Everybody here know that whenever you've had the system open, like you've replaced the accumulator compressor, you don't recover air. You vacuum it first, and then you recover it if it's got refrigerant. After you've identified it with the refrigerant identifier, then you're going to go back in there, and the refrigerant identifier is going to tell you what it's got in it. And I've actually seen them with as much as half of it R12 and the other half 134.
R12. How much would it charge to get the system charged up with R134? How much would that cost? A lot.
Oh, you mean to replace the R12? It's not too hard to do that. It was like they were acting like it was a big deal to start with, but basically you can replace the fittings. You're supposed to replace the accumulator. You're supposed to put the appropriate amount of ester oil in it, and then you just charge it up at 134. But the fittings, and there's supposed to be a label put on there saying that it's been converted. In the olden days, they were saying that you were supposed to put a different hose on there, a different high pressure hose that had a high pressure cutout switch on it and all this kind of stuff. But it turned out that if you can fall off a log, you can pretty much convert one. Not that hard to do. All right. So technician A says, okay. Now technician B says all refrigerant. And both those guys are right. That's going to be
Number 2 is?
well. Actually, excuse me. B is. I say both of them right. Technician A is wrong. You can't vent refrigerant to the atmosphere no matter what, because that's bad wrong. B is the only guy that's right. Technician A says the same recovery unit can be used for R12 and 134. What do we got out here, guys? The same one, but it's a dual unit. You flip it back and forth. Okay. Now they're talking about if it's R12 134 and you just got one tank and just one set of hoses and all that. Technician B says the service hoses from an R134A recovery unit must have shut-off valves within 18 inches of the end.
We don't have that, do we?
Yeah. Whenever you take them things loose, nothing can get out of those hoses into the air. They don't want you losing a little bit of refrigerant into the air every time you take the hoses loose. Let's say that you didn't have that and you screwed those little things when you popped them off. Do you ever hear refrigerant come hissing out of those lines? No, because it's trapped. And that's right on the very end. But it's actually closer to the end than 18 inches is what it's supposed to be. So that's basically going to be a D. Neither technician, not within 18 inches, within 12 inches is right. Technician A says
I don't know. How's that neither one of them? Because same recovery unit for R12.
Well, I'm sorry. I should have been more clear. I was clarifying that while we have the same unit, it's a dual unit, and it's actually two units in one. But if you've just got one unit with one tank and one set of hoses, you're not going to be able to use that one unit for both types of refrigerant. You know what I mean?
So it's D1?
Yeah. I mean, if you changed the hoses and put a different tank on it, you might be able to go back and forth, but that'd be a pain. On this one, you flip a switch back and forth. And a homemade business card. Right. Okay. Let's see. Technician A says high pressure in recycled refrigerant is only used Technician A says high pressure in recycled refrigerant is only caused by air contamination. Technician B says recycled refrigerant should meet the same purity standards as new refrigerant. Who's correct about that? That's a B. There's other things that can cause high pressure in recycled refrigerant. You know what you're going to do is at a certain temperature you're going to check the pressure in the bottle and all that and tell if it's. But the way that I check the purity of the refrigerant is I hook my refrigerant identifier up to the bottle and I see what it tells me. I mean, it's basically what I do. I mean, I checked it, and if I've got other stuff in there, it's going to let me know, typically. As a matter of fact, this new bottle I just bought, I checked it to make sure that it was pure because I got it from a source that I hadn't bought one before. So I hooked up to it, and I made sure it was 100% 134. Because there are some of these companies now that are counterfeiting name brand refrigerants and putting them out there with propane in them and just all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and butane, propane, all kind of liquid petroleum gas.
Ripping you off.
Huh?
They're ripping you off.
Yeah, well, they're not only ripping you off, they're making something dangerous there. All right. Technician A says, compressor failure sends metal and debris through the system.
Yes.
So it should be flushed using R11. Technician B says a good method to solve this problem is to replace the compressor and install an inline filter.
I think B.
Well, that is basically a D. You're supposed to flush it. I tell you what I did one time, a long time ago. I hadn't worked on air conditioners hardly at all in those days, and in those days there was no certification. Hey, we're talking 70s, man. Chrysler had one of these piston-operated V compressors, you know. That's a compressor, like a little V8 engine sort of, but it's mounted with a... And that thing crossed up and came apart. It was on a company car. I worked with this company down in Texas. And so I got a compressor. Because I knew the compressor was bad. I got a compressor from the parts house and I popped it on there and I fired it up and it was no time. It was cooling to start with, but it was no time before that compressor came apart too. And so I And I was, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just being a gummy. I called the guy that I bought the compressor from, and I said, David, this compressor's already failed. He said, okay, let me hit you with this. He goes, you put a compressor on there because the other compressor came apart inside. Now, where did all that metal go? I said, oh, well, I guess through got metal in all the hoses and everything. And he says, now, you're going to have to get that metal out of there because it's still going to be in there, and it's going to go back in the new compressor. Because where does the metal go? Like I say, if a compressor comes apart, which way is that metal going to go?
Throughout the system.
Huh? It's basically going to go throughout the system. But what if the receiver dryer comes apart? You're going to get desiccant throughout the system. And there's other stuff that can get throughout there. Or if the Teflon seals in the compressor, it's going to go. Where's it going first? As soon as it leaves the compressor, where does it go? Huh?
Accumulator.
No, doesn't go to the accumulator.
Evaporator.
It doesn't go to the evaporator. We've been through this. Get your worksheet and look at the back page of your worksheet. Look at the back page of your worksheet. Now tell me where the refrigerant goes when it leaves the compressor.
Condenser.
Yeah, through which pipe? Through which line?
The low pressure.
No, the discharge line.
Discharge.
That's it. We got to have a flash review here. All right, a flash review time. Oh my gosh! All right, flash review. Compressor. All right. Where's it go first? Where does it go? All right. Huh? All right, and up here we got an evaporator. It's inside the car with a fan blowing across it. We got a fan blowing across this. All right. Now we're going to have a fixed orifice tap seal. Discharge line. We're going to have a liquid line, and the liquid line is going to contain your little orifice. And then we're going to come out of there here. If it's got an orifice in it, we're going to go through an accumulator, and this is a big line. We're going to go back to the compressor. Suction line. Remember what I told you? This is cold. This is cold. This should be cold all the way to here if everything's right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hot.
Yeah, and this is going to be hot. And what's in this line?
Liquid.
No liquid.
Oh, that's gas.
You know why we're not going to have a liquid in that line? Because it gets lost in here. Anything coming out of here that's still liquid is going to get trapped in the accumulator. Got that? All right. Now you're going to have low pressure gas still absorbing heat all the way to here. You're going to have, and I made this look wrong. This is going to be a skinny little line. It's going to be, this line is bigger than that one, but that line is bigger than this one usually. Got it? Now you're going to see mufflers and other kind of stuff in these lines too, But this discharge line's got what in it?
Liquid.
High pressure.
Oh, high pressure gas. Liquid line.
Turns into liquid here, becomes liquid here. Now a subcooler not only turns it into high pressure liquid, it cools that high pressure liquid so you've cooled it off before you go back, and that makes it even better. And then there's your evaporator, so this is going to go in there in your face, which makes you feel so good. This right here is going to dump the the heat that it picked up in here. So you absorbed heat here, it dumps it out here. It absorbs heat here, it dumps it out here. What do you got here? You got a heat pump. Got it? Okay. If I ask you this question again and you don't know the answer, we're going to do this again. This was a terrible ordeal to go through, wasn't it? Right here, what I just did.
Not really.
I can tell some of you are about to surely die. They were here going, about to fall over. All right, got that? All right. Now let me ask you, I'm going to have you guys get up here and draw this.
I'll do it.
I'll do that. I'm going to ask you verbal questions, and Brandon is going to be the chief artist. He's going to have to get up here. All right, now then. To finish the story, what I did was, I got I had a bunch of cans of Delco D-Clean. And that's a denatured alcohol. It's a purple color. It's made by Delco for flushing brakes. And I says, this is a company car, and I'm the boss of this shop, and I'm going to do what I want to. So I took all of them lines loose, and I took the receiver dryer off, because we're going to put one of those on anyway. And I poured all of that whole system out. The compressor's out of the loop. The receiver dryer's out of the loop. I poured the whole system full of denatured alcohol. Just liquid. Glug, 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 glug. Just poured it all through. Now, what's that going to do? Listen to that. That's the 10 o'clock phone call. Every morning somebody calls me. I'm not answering that phone. Anyway, I filled it up. And then I got a hose, and I put on, in other words, I was going backwards through the system, right? So I would pour it in, and so coming from, I'd go in the liquid line with air pressure, and then I would put a hose going out the discharge line. Huh?
Aren't you on the way?
Yep, he better be. That's all I got to say. All right, and then I had a big old white 5-gallon bucket. It was really pretty and clean and pristine, and I run that hose into that bucket. All right, now how much pressure are the various components on this system designed to hold? How much pressure is routinely in the condenser?
How much pressure?
Yeah. How much pressure is usually in the condenser? If you fire up an air conditioner system, now when you first hook your gauges up, what do you usually see? Your static pressure is usually what?
The same.
About 100 pounds on each side of the system. There's not any hard numbers on that. It could be 70, could be 110, could be 120. But it depends on the ambient temperature. If it's hot outside, they're going to be higher. And that's important, so don't be looking off in the air with your mouth open thinking about something else. Now, you can yawn if you want to, but don't do anything beyond that.
You
All
can't
right.
keep me yawning. I don't care. The President of the United States say don't yawn, don't yawn.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to take my air hose and I'm going to blow backwards through the system, and I stick that hose I isolate the condenser, I isolate the evaporator, and I got my lines here. And this was just me coming up with a way to do it now. This is not the way that, is necessarily sanctioned, but it doesn't hurt anything. All right, so I take my rubber tip blower and I shoot this stuff through there backwards, and it's basically cutting the oil that's going to be in there that's going to have the little particles of metal sticking in the oil, and it carried all that alcohol rushed all the way through there, and I blew it into that 5-gallon bucket, and my goodness, I had all kinds of metal particles and everything in that 5-gallon bucket. And then I poured a bunch of it in the evaporator, and I blew backwards through that. See, that one was an expansion valve system, so I had a receiver dryer in the high side line instead of an accumulator in the low side line. Anyway, but that was out of the loop too, and I was going to replace that. So I blew backwards through that darn thing, through the evaporator, into a bucket the same way. I got all kinds of metal and all kinds of crap. That's cool as all get out with it. Put all that back together with new O-rings, new receiver dryer, new compressor. We're gone. Never have any more trouble. Is that cool or what?
That is cool.
Well, see, what I'm saying is, I was just using plain old horse sense. Nothing environmentally unfriendly about that, as long as you dispose of the alcohol appropriately. Got it? But basically, what I did was, I got that thing going again. But see, if you take it to somewhere that's got a flushing machine, and I didn't know of anywhere in those days, because like I say, everybody was just kind of winging it in those days anyway. But if you take it somewhere that's got a flushing machine, they're going to charge you the big bucks. Now, I've also got this pressure can that's looks like a rubber tip blower on it, and you put some stuff in there and you blow it out the right. We've done those here. That worked good. Okay, number 5 to answer that question there is D, as in a dog. Okay, the next one is a true-false question. System contaminated with moisture should be evacuated for a minimum of 15 minutes.
You can get away with 10, can't you?
Huh?
You can get away with 10, can't
Not
you?
if it's been contaminated with moisture. You need to go 15. What's the premise there? Why are we evacuating the thing when it's got moisture in it? What happens whenever you lower air pressure where moisture is?
Condenser?
No, when you lower the air pressure, it's going to boil at a real low pressure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. If I was in the trackless void of outer space, and I was to have some liquid water in my spaceship where I've got air pressure where I can breathe and all this kind of stuff, and I sprayed it out into space somehow, what would it do?
Freeze or something.
No, it'd instantly turn into a vapor.
Really?
Because there's no pressure out there to keep it liquid.
Oh, yeah.
It's be gone. That's what's going to happen there. It's not going to freeze. Now, you're thinking about it being cold, but when you spray it out there, you're going to wind up with teeny tiny ice crystals and stuff.
Does that mean?
And next time, somebody will tell me why clouds stay up in the air if water's heavier than air. You know what I mean?
Evaporate.
Well, I know, but I see clouds. I actually see water. I can see that water, but it's staying up in the air.
The relative humidity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, by the way, this is something I want to tell you about while I'm at it, too. Did you know that there are some cars, Hyundai, some of the Hyundai cars, and some of the other ones, too, nowadays, the newer cars have got an AQS on them,
What's that?
air quality sensor. The other day, when I was driving back to Enterprise, I got behind a little small white pickup truck that was a diesel. And it's a little small compact pickup, This thing was puffing out some heavy-duty black smoke. And if I've got my air conditioner on norm, I'm pulling air in from the outside. And I'm smelling that smoke. You know what I mean? Of course, I've worked in shops all my life, and I've smelled a lot of stuff. But if I'm driving down the road, I don't really want to smell that nonsense. You know? So what happens? What did I do? I turned. No, I turned it. Well, you try doing that between here and Enterprise. It ain't happening. You know, you got your hills and curves. You're taking your life in your hands. You pass anything through an Enterprise. I don't care if it's a log truck. All right, I flipped it to max. What does max do? Max closes the outside air and begins to re-air condition the inside. So you've lost your smell. In other words, you don't have that stink coming in from outside anymore. The air quality sensor is kind of like an oxygen sensor. It picks up, except it's real sensitive, it picks up hydrocarbons and this kind of nonsense that's coming off cars in front of you and automatically closes your your fresh air door so that all you're getting is inside air. That air quality sensor, remember that, AQS. Now, some of the other automakers may call it something else. Just remember that. That's something I wanted to let you in on before I forgot about it. You're going to hear about an air quality sensor. Now, also, Mercedes and I think BMW, they have got it's got humidity. It checks for humidity and air pressure, all that kind of stuff, so that it can automatically turn on your outside rearview mirrors and all that, so that it get heated up, defrosted. Technician A says checking the pressure-temperature relationships is a reliable way to check for contaminated refrigerant. Technician B says refrigerant with more than 2% of a foreign refrigerant should normally be sent off for reclaiming or disposal. That's going to be B. That's going to be B. Technician A, refrigerant can be contaminated with NCG if the system is, in other words, it's non-compressible gas, I guess. If it's not thoroughly evacuated before recharging. Now, what happens if you have a bunch of air in your system? What if somebody said my air conditioner's not working right, and I'm hearing my compressor's trying to lock up and all this, and I'm hearing my pop-off valve go on my air conditioner, which is pretty scary. It goes, brrr! It makes a noise, and a bunch of mist comes from under it. But you say the first thing you're going to do is hook your gauges up and see where the pressure's going. What if the pressure, as soon as you fire it up, is jumping up to like 450 or 500 pounds? You know. What is that air conditioner compressor? It's a compressor. Okay, so if it's compressing the air, if it compresses refrigerant, the refrigerant goes into the condenser and condenses and becomes liquid. Will air do that?
No.
It will not. So what happens if there's a bunch of air in there, it can make your head pressure go slam out of sight. So if you've got one that's got massive amounts of pressure on the high side, as soon as you start it up, then you need to be saying, whoop, we need to, we're going to have to get this out of here. There's a bunch of air in there. You got to get that out of there. And start over, suck it down, make sure it ain't leaking, and charge it up. Somebody put a part on there, put an accumulator on there their own self at the house and charge it up with a can, mess it up. Can't do that. All right, so as the recovery says, hose is not tied if the technician uses sloppy service procedures. Brandon, you ever use sloppy service procedures?
Yes.
Yeah. He does beautiful texting on his phone, though. All right. All of these. If you can learn to do the work like as good as you can text, man, you could really make a lot of money. All right. Technician A says that a system should be evacuated for twice as long. That's an all of the above, by the way, that number 8. We're going to get through these things. Technician A says the system should be evacuated for twice as long if the vacuum pump will only pull it down to 20 inches of mercury. Technician B says the system might have a leak if it won't pull down to a deep vacuum. All right. What about those guys? B is right.
B's right.
B's right on that one. I always like for that thing to go right on down to 30 inches real quick.
Yep.
I like to see it go down. But if it goes down to about 20 and it just stops, most of the time when you stop your vacuum pump, it goes right back up because it's pulling air in. All right. Let's see. Technician A says refrigerant charge levels are given in service manuals. Are they?
Yeah.
We look those up, don't we? Technician B says charge levels are printed under hood decal. That's not always true, but the right answer to this question, according to the answer key, is C. But on most of them, it is. Now, on your GM ones, where is it? It's on top of it'll be a round sticker on top of the accumulator. It'll have it there. And on your Fords, it may be on a shock tower. But you can look around under the hood. Chelsea, on the ones that you've done, you've looked around and couldn't find a sticker under the hood, haven't you? I have. When I've looked under the hood and I'm hoping to grab that information really quick, I don't know at the times that I've looked and it's just not there.
Well, everyone that I've serviced so far
Yeah, it's supposed to have, I think, but a lot of them just don't have that sticker. Either it peeled off, or they replaced the part that the sticker was stuck on. And
But sometimes they put it in the weirdest spots. Like sometimes it'll be with the belt diagram. Sometimes it'll be over here with something else. You just gotta look at it.
And if you're looking for stickers, it's also a good idea to look at the underside of the hood because there may be some up there.
Yeah, it's on the underside of the hood or right here.
That's kind of like the tire pressure sticker. It may be with the decal giving you the VIN number, or it may be a separate decal, or it may be, and usually it's in the driver's door, but I have seen it on the right side of the car when you open the back door. You find a stupid thing over there, so you always got to look everywhere for it. Okay, Technician A says refrigerant charge levels. Okay, never mind. Number 10 is actually a C. Technician A says an overcharge will cause excessively high system pressure. Was that, is he right?
I think it'll only take so much.
All right, how much refrigerant is there in a can of refrigerant that you buy from the parts
Well,
shop?
that's
Yeah, it's not a full pound, is it? They tell you it's a pound, but it's not a full pound. And they used to make back when it wasn't illegal to, exhaust refrigerant. I guess you could probably still do this with a can of CO2. They used to make this BB gun that was like a mini gun. And you could fire that thing and it shoot like 3,000 rounds a minute or something. And you could, I'm telling you, you could tear something up with that. But I mean, they actually had a little YouTube video on that. And you put that air pressure on there and man, spray. Boy, you can waste some BBs. That was expensive too. But that one guy, it looked like that, that guy you hold this little BB gun, mini gun. That'd be pretty good for self-defense. You can put somebody to route with that thing. I don't know. Wow. Yeah. Well, you could. What you do you can actually get you a paintball gun and dial it down to about 150 feet a second.
Don't give me a paintball gun because I will straight go to jail.
Yeah.
Vandalism.
Yeah, you'll be shooting all over it. Well, no, you got to. You'll be gentle. You don't want to hurt the dog. You just want to.
Yes, I do.
You want it to be an unpleasant. You want it to be an unpleasant experience when he dumps your garbage. That's all. Basically, most of the time you can take something like a shotgun and just shoot up in the air. And if he's ever been around a gun, he's gonna be gone. He's scared of those.
I will never own a gun.
Yeah. All right. So Technician A says, wait a minute. Okay. We know about those. 11 is actually going to be an A. All right, let's go here. Let's look at this true-false question here. Refrigerant is normally charged to the high side with the engine running.
no, low side.
Low side with the engine running. But with our machine, how does the refrigerant go in there? High side. Bingo. It pushes it in the high side. Now, why does it put it in the high side instead of the low side?
Because it's already a liquid.
Yeah, you don't want to take a chance of putting liquid refrigerant in on the low side because it may go back to the compressor, right? And why is it that so many of our low side charge fittings on the ones that's got the fixed orifice system have the accumulator, why is that right on the accumulator?
So it'll change it into the side.
Well, if you're putting the refrigerant in there and it happens to be going in there liquid, it'll go into the accumulator and puddle up down in there, and all that's going to come out of the accumulator because of its very design is vapor. You're not going to get liquid refrigerant out of the accumulator. In normal
That's the thing
circumstances.
with the desiccant bag.
Huh?
That's the thing with the desiccant, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that thing there. But it also, there's some oil puddled up in there, and it is going to get it's got a little hole, that tube that makes a U has got a little small hole in it with a screen around it, and it's going to get some oil right there, and it's going to pick that oil up and carry it to the compressor with the refrigerant if the oil is compatible. Now, changing over to 134 like you were talking about, who was talking about that? Brandon? You better make doggone sure what you're supposed to do. Like I say, if you do it right, you'll put an accumulator. They don't cost that much, and you'll put the right kind of oil back in there, and so that that will actually pick up and carry with 134. Technician A says retrofitting a system is simply a matter of recovering the R12 and recharging it with a drop-in refrigerant. Technician B says the charge level spec is the same with 134A as R12. Now, I'm going to tell you the way that works, and I've never actually abided by this, but they're saying that the charge level of 134A should be 80% of whatever R12 was in there. Like if it held 2 pounds of R12, how much 134 would you put in there if you were only putting 80%?
0.6 pounds.
Huh?
1.6 pounds.
1.6, that's a good answer, 1.6. But I typically just put the same amount. I hadn't ever seen it give a problem. You know, and typically the ones that we've retrofitted here do very well, but you got to put the right kind of oil in there. All right, 13 is one of those. It's a D. Neither one of those. Both those guys are yo-yos. They know what I'm talking about. Technician A says a SNAP approval indicates good refrigerant will have no problems in a system. And that's basically SNAP is an acronym. Somebody needs to tell me what that means. Tell me what that means. Tell me what SNAP is. Anybody know?
Everybody get out the smartphone.
Yeah. Tell me what SNAP means. It's supposed to be a book over somewhere. All right, no problem. So Technician B says using any refrigerant that contains R22 requires system to have barrier hoses. My goodness. Oh, 14, that's going to be a B if it uses R22. But my goodness, but ours don't use R22. Right? That's a house refrigerant. The new SAE standard J2788 improves improved performance from what? Requires improved performance from recovery and recycling machines is the right answer to that one.
Is that one they want to charge $100 a pound for or whatever?
Well, no. That the J2788 machine is actually the one that
that's a machine.
you see that's an SAE standard. SAE standards all have you ever heard of the J1930 regulation as it relates to emission controls? You have at US. What does it mean?
I've heard it. I don't know what it means.
Leave it to the guy that put in his first semester at Nashville Auto Diesel College to not know what that means. It basically means that all the terms have got to be the same. In other words, everybody's got to call their engine coolant temperature an ECT sensor. You know, Ford used to call the sensor that measured incoming air an air charge temperature sensor, ACT, but now it's supposed to be called an IAT. If the PCM controls the alternator field, it's supposed to be called a generator. Yeah, they call it a generator. What do you think of when you think of the generator as an old long thing? It looks like a starter they used to have on a car back in the early 60s. Yeah, bugs have generators on them. Well, the newer ones had alternators, but... all right. Let's move on here. We're taking too much time. All right, because I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, that's going to be the recovery and recycling machine, J2788. This machine I have out here is not a J2788 machine. And part of the standards are they're supposed to pull 95% of the refrigerant out in 30 minutes or less. You know, that kind of stuff. And it also has got a little SD card slot where you can upgrade the software in it. So there's other things too. But if an AC system contains contaminated refrigerant, how can the contaminated refrigerant be removed?
See?
Use a separate recovery machine that is dedicated to contaminated refrigerant recovery. I've got one of those here at the shop. And what color is a container contaminated refrigerant should be colored what?
Gray with yellow top.
Very good, Chelsea. A container of recovered R134A refrigerant has a pressure of 91 psi at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's number 18. What does that mean? That means D. Too much oil in the system will cause what? That's number 19. Huh?
See?
No, that was a B, excessive pressures, yeah. It's not going to cause compressor clutch slippage. You're thinking about the oil being slippery, right?
Yeah.
Does the oil ever make contact with the compressor? Clutch, I'm talking about? Not under normal.
Clutch on the outside.
Yeah, clutch on the outside and on the inside. The system has been evacuated and the gauge valves have been closed. A slight increase in pressure after a short term indicates what?
A week.
Does it?
Right now, refrigerant system.
A system has been evacuated and the gauge valves have been closed. A slight increase in pressure after a short time indicates. When I say gauge valves, these two knobs, what do the two knobs on my gauges do?
Close and charge or vacuum, recover.
Well,
Talking about those.
yeah, right here. I've got a manifold set. I got a knob here. I got a knob here. I got 3 hoses. I got a red hose. I got a blue hose, and I got a hose in the middle. And I've got 2 gauges up here.
How you talking about?
Right? Now, when I turn this knob, what happens?
It opens it up.
It opens this hose to where it's connected to that one. When I open that knob, it opens this hose where it's connected to that one. So when you close both of these, you've shut this off, but you're still reading pressure. Got it? If you close those lines, you're not closing your gauges off of the pressure. Why are you not doing that? Because it's pointless. to close the gauges off where they can't see pressure, okay? Especially, you know, when you're trying to diagnose and everything. All right, so if you've got a slight increase in pressure, a leak, water, refrigerant in the system, any of these. Now, we've told you this before, and this accumulator, this oil that's in that accumulator can trap refrigerant and a lot like gas is trapped in a Coca-Cola, right? And a lot of times when you're pulling the refrigerant out, it'll recover, and you'll see the needle coming all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. It'll come down to just below zero, and then it'll jump back up to like 12 or 13 pounds, and then it'll come down again. Now, why did it do that? Go play dumb with me. The gas, the outgassing they call it, coming out of that oil, causes, you know, it's like, you know how when you shake your Coca-Cola with your thumb over it, and it goes, then you shake your Coca-Cola again with your thumb over it. That's what's going on with that oil releasing that refrigerant, okay? Technician A says evacuation is done with both manifold valves open. Technician B says, yes, it is too. Ooh, it is. You're going to open both of them. Evacuation.
Oh, yeah.
When a reading of at 10 inches of mercury after 5 minutes of evacuation is not normal. 21. That's an A. It should go down. It ought to go almost immediately down to 30 inches if you're doing it right. All right.
Rachel, what was 20?
Well, 20. That's any of these. That's a D. A vacuum pump removes water from the air conditioning system by doing what? Archie.
I'm here, Mr.
He's here about the time we're through with our test here. So. All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, a vacuum pump removes water from the air conditioning system by. Well, wait a minute. What did we talk about earlier?
What is going into the decibel?
No, it doesn't do that either. Was it?
B?
Remember, I mean, what did I tell you? I was just talking earlier. The lower you go with your air pressure, what is water more likely to
Boil
do?
it.
Condensing.
It boils it. It actually turns it into
So it's D,
vapor.
right?
Yeah, you got high pressure, you're going to condense it. You got low pressure, you're going to boil it.
Wait, is it C or D?
Huh?
D.
Well, I mean, what's boiling it? Which one? That's C in it.
Oh, it is D.
Well, I mean, vacuum pump's going to boil it, not
So-
condense it.
It's C. Right.
Yeah, 22 is C. And 23, a refrigerant container has been found to have a pressure above the maximum for its temperature. What should you do? A, use a vacuum pump to correct the container pressure. B, vent R134A to the atmosphere. That's a $10,000 fine. C, recycle the refrigerant in the container. Or D, store the container in a cooler place.
That's D.
That's actually recycle refrigerants in the container because it's not any good. Technician A says vacuum is usually measured in PSI. Technician B says, now wait a minute, is vacuum measured in PSI?
Depends on what it's for and how low it goes.
Vacuum is measured in, what's vacuum measured in?
It's measured in inches of mercury, but it
Inches
can't
of mercury. And how do you write that on paper? You write INCHESOFMERC HG, which is the elemental symbol for mercury. Right. Technician B says vacuum is usually measured in inches of mercury. And he's right. What's the purpose of evacuating the AC system?
C.
You got an
C.
A, to get all the people out of it. B, no, I'm just kidding. To remove the foreign substance. Got that, number 25. That's going to be an A. To eliminate the moisture in the system. Eliminate the moisture in the system. All right, let's got that. So since Archie got here late, I'll let him watch the video of the lecture. How about that? Yeah.